The monitoring station floated in the darkness like a metal seed pod, silent and alone. Hunwoo sat at his console, watching streams of data flow across multiple screens. He had been stationed at Sentinel-7 for 8 months now, and most days nothing happened. Space was quiet out here, far from the busy trade routes and colony worlds. That was exactly why the station existed, to watch the empty places where no one else looked. The coffee in his cup had gone cold an hour ago. Hyunwoo took a sip anyway and made a face. He was about to get up for a fresh cup when something caught his eye. A signal, faint but definitely there, pulsing in a pattern that did not match any natural cosmic phenomenon. His fingers moved quickly across the keyboard, isolating the frequency and boosting the gain. The pattern repeated. 3 long pulses, 2 short ones, then a complex mathematical sequence. Hyunwoo felt his heart rate pick up. This was not random noise. This was a message. He ran the signal through the standard translation protocols. Nothing matched. He tried the historical database, going back through decades of recorded alien communications. Still nothing. The pattern was old. Really old. Encoded in a format that predated modern galactic standard by at least 2 centuries. Hyunwoo contacted his supervisor, then forwarded the data to Central Command. Within 6 hours, a ship was already on its way to his station. That was fast, much faster than normal bureaucratic response time. Someone at command recognized something important in that signal. The research vessel Horizon's Edge arrived 3 days later. It was a medium-sized ship, built for exploration rather than combat, with sensor arrays that bristled from its hull like metallic quills. Captain Mirai came aboard the station with 2 of her officers, and Hyunwoo noticed immediately how seriously she took this. Her face was calm, but her eyes were sharp, missing nothing. "Show me everything," she said without preamble. Hyunwoo brought up all his analysis on the main display. The signal originated from this sector. He pointed to a region of space that was marked as unexplored on the star charts. Based on signal degradation and dispersion patterns, I estimate it was broadcast approximately 217 years ago. 217 years, Mirai repeated softly. Before the expansion era, before we even had faster-than-light travel. Yes, Captain, but there is more. Hyunwoo pulled up another screen. I managed to crack part of the encoding. It is a distress signal, but not in any human language. The linguistic patterns match the Valen Coalition. One of the other officers, a man named Taman, shook his head. The Valons have been extinct for over a century. The Krell Dominion wiped them out during their expansion campaigns. I know, Hyunwoo said, but this message predates their extinction. I think this was one of their last transmissions before they fell. Mirai studied the data in silence. Finally, she asked, "Can you translate it?" "Partially. The message contains coordinates and what appears to be a warning. Something about an approaching threat and needing to wake up Guardians. But there is something strange, Captain. The message specifically references Earth by its old galactic designation code. The one we used when we first made contact with other species. How would the Valens know that code? We barely knew them." "Unless they knew us better than we thought," Mirai said quietly. She turned to her officers. "I want a full analysis team on this. Pull every scrap of data we have about the Valens and their final years, and find out why they thought Earth was important enough to mention in their dying message." Over the next week, the Horizon's Edge became a hub of intense activity. Linguists, historians, and cryptographers worked around the clock to decode more of the ancient message. Hyunwoo barely slept, driven by a curiosity he could not explain. There was something about this signal that felt personal, as if it was meant for him specifically to find. On the 8th day, they had a breakthrough. The head linguist, a woman named Sunhee, burst into the command center with her tablet held high. "We got it!" The full message. Everyone gathered around as she played the translated version. A synthesized voice spoke in standard galactic, but the words carried the weight of desperation. "To any who receive this transmission, we are the Valen Coalition. Our worlds burn. Our people fall. The Krell Dominion advances with weapons we cannot counter, and cruelty we cannot comprehend. We have fought for 3 years. We have lost everything. This is our final message before our communications network falls. We send this specifically to the humans of Earth. We discovered your secret before our surveillance systems went dark. We know what you built. We know what you hid. The Shadow Protocol exists. For the sake of all free peoples in this galaxy, Activate it before the Krell reach your borders. They are coming. Wake the Guardians or all will fall. Silence filled the command center. Everyone looked at each other with confused expressions. Shadow Protocol? No one had heard that term before. Taman was the first to speak. That does not make sense. 200 years ago, humanity barely had one functioning colony. We had no secret military projects. We were nobody. Maybe that is what we were told, Mirai said slowly. Maybe the real history is different. She turned to her communications officer. Send a priority request to Earth Archives. I want all classified military records from 150 to 200 years ago, specifically anything related to special projects or deep space operations. The response came back faster than expected, but it was not what they hoped for. Most records from that era were sealed under maximum security protocols. However, there were fragments, pieces of data that had leaked through bureaucratic cracks over the decades. References to something called the Shadow Protocol appeared in 7 different documents, each one heavily redacted. But they found one useful detail buried in an old budget allocation report. A massive construction project had taken place in a region called the Void Belt, the same region where the Valon coordinates pointed. The project consumed resources equivalent to building 50 colony ships, but no official explanation was ever recorded. Then suddenly all funding stopped and the project was listed as cancelled. It was not cancelled, Hyunwoo said, staring at the screen. It was hidden. Mirai made her decision. Set course for the Void Belt. Whatever the Valens wanted us to find, it has been waiting there for over a century. I think it is time we found out what our ancestors were hiding. The crew prepared for departure, but Hyunwoo could not shake a strange feeling. He went back to his original analysis of the signal. Looking at the fine details he had initially overlooked, that was when he saw it. A secondary encoding hidden within the primary message. It was not part of the Valen transmission. It was a response. The response was in human code using encryption that was over 100 years old. It contained only 2 words. We awaken. Hyunwoo's hands trembled as he forwarded this to Mirai. Someone, or something, had received the Valon message when Hyunwoo first boosted and decoded it. His analysis had not just uncovered a 200-year-old distress call. It had activated something that had been sleeping in the darkness, waiting for this exact moment. Whatever was hidden in the Void Belt, it knew they were coming. And it was already waking up. The Void Belt earned its name honestly. As the horizon's edge crossed into the region, every sensor on the ship began to malfunction. Navigation became guesswork. Communications turned to static. Even the ship's AI seemed confused, running diagnostic checks every few minutes as if doubting its own calculations. This is impossible, Taman muttered, staring at his engineering displays. It is like space itself is broken here. Gravity wells where there should not be any. Radiation signatures that make no sense. No wonder ships avoid this place. Mirai stood on the bridge, watching the view screen show nothing but distorted stars. The Valens sent us here for a reason. Keep us steady, Taman. Hyunwoo, any sign of the coordinates? Hyunwoo worked at his station, trying to filter signal from noise. I think so, Captain. If I am reading this correctly, we are close. Very close. But something is interfering with precise measurements. It is almost like something is deliberately scrambling our sensors. Or protecting itself, Mirai said. They pushed deeper into the Void Belt. Then Jiwon, the security chief, called out from her tactical station. Captain, I am picking up debris. A lot of it. Fresh debris. The view screen focused on the wreckage floating ahead. Twisted metal, scorched hull plates, and fragments of technology drifted in the void. Taman ran a quick analysis and his face went pale. That is Krell construction. These are pieces of their warships. How fresh? Mirai asked. Days old. Maybe a week at most. Captain, these ships were destroyed by directed energy weapons using technology I do not recognize. The burn patterns are too precise, too efficient. Nothing in the current human or known alien arsenals can do this. Mirai felt ice form in her stomach. How many ships? Jiwon studied the debris field carefully. At least 5, possibly more. All military vessels. Heavy cruiser class based on the armor thickness. Whatever killed them did it quickly. The crew exchanged nervous glances. The Krell Dominion was the dominant military power in this region of space. Their ships were feared throughout dozens of systems. If something could destroy 5 of their cruisers in a matter of days, what chance did one research vessel have? Do we continue, Captain? Taman asked quietly. Mirai thought of the Valon message. Wake the Guardians. We continue. But battle stations, everyone. Jiwon, I want every weapon we have ready, even if we are outgunned. They moved through the debris field, and that was when Hyunwoo detected it. Captain, I have something. It is big, really big. Directly ahead, approximately 50,000 kilometers. I am not seeing anything on visual, Jiwon said. Because it is cloaked, Hyunwoo replied, his fingers dancing across the controls. But I can detect the gravitational distortion. There is something massive there, hidden by some kind of exotic matter field. Captain, I think I can send a signal that might interact with the cloak's quantum signature. It might reveal what is underneath. Do it, Mirai ordered. Hyunwoo transmitted a complex mathematical sequence, the same pattern from the original Valon message. For a moment, nothing happened. Then space itself seemed to shimmer and tear. The cloak fell away like a curtain dropping, and everyone on the bridge gasped. A rogue planet hung before them, but it was not natural. The entire surface was covered in metal, a constructed shell that had been built around the planetary core. Massive docking bays gaped open along the equator, and sensor towers bristled from the poles. It was a facility, the largest military installation Mirai had ever seen, and it was completely dark. No lights, no power signatures, nothing to suggest life. Scans show no active systems, Jiwon reported, but the structure is intact. Whatever this place is, it is still functional, just dormant. Mirai stared at the impossible structure. Humanity had never built anything on this scale. Hyunwoo, can you establish a connection? Already working on it, Captain. There is a docking protocol broadcasting on a very old frequency. It is inviting us in. They guided the horizon's edge toward one of the massive docking bays. As they entered, lights began to flicker on, illuminating a cavernous space that could have held 100 ships. Only 12 docking cradles were visible, built for vessels much larger than theirs. 11 cradles were empty. In the 12th, a ship rested in shadows. It was enormous, easily 5 times the size of the horizon's edge, built with angular lines and armored plating that looked designed for war rather than exploration. Weapons ports covered its hull. Launch bays for fighter craft gaped like hungry mouths. This was not a research vessel. This was a warship, and it had been built by humans. They docked the horizon's edge and assembled a team to explore. Mirai, Hyunwoo, Taemin, Jiwon, and 4 security personnel entered the facility. Emergency lighting activated as they walked, responding to their presence. The corridors were wide and functional, built for people in a hurry. This is a military installation, Jiwon said, examining the construction. Everything about it screams combat readiness. But when was it built? And by who? They found a command center deep in the facility's core. Banks of computers and display screens lined the walls, all dark. Hyunwoo approached the central console and found an interface port that matched standard human connections. May I, Captain? Mirai nodded. Hyunwoo connected his tablet and began the activation sequence. The computers came to life with a hum of power. Screens flickered on, showing the facility's systems initializing after what must have been decades of sleep. A voice spoke, calm and artificial. Biometric scan in progress. Analyzing command authorization. What is it scanning? Taemin asked nervously. I think it is scanning all of us, Mirai said. Looking for something specific, the voice continued. Authorization recognized. Welcome, Captain Mirai, granddaughter of Architect Jiho. Shadow Protocol Command Authority confirmed. Initiating full system activation. Mirai felt her blood turn cold. Her grandfather Jiho had died when she was a child. He had been a military engineer, but she never knew the details of his work. He never spoke about it. The main screen lit up, showing a schematic of the entire facility. 12 ships were displayed, each one labeled with a name. Eternal Vigil, Silent Thunder, Iron Covenant, and 9 others. The voice, which identified itself as Sentinel, began to explain. The Shadow Protocol was initiated 153 years ago during the First Contact War. Humanity encountered a hostile species called the Vectar in the outer colonies. The war lasted 3 years and cost 14 million lives before the Vectar were driven back. Military command realized humanity was unprepared for galactic-scale conflict. The Shadow Protocol was created as a failsafe. Images appeared on screen, showing battles Mirai had never heard of, colonies burning, ships exploding. This was history that had been erased from public records. Sentinel continued. 12 capital ships were constructed using experimental technology. Crews volunteered to enter cryosleep, waiting to be awakened if humanity faced extinction-level threats. The project was classified and hidden to prevent panic and political interference. I have monitored deep space communications for 150 years, waiting for activation criteria to be met. And we met those criteria? Mirai asked. Yes. The Valon Coalition's distress call contained specific threat assessment data. Analysis confirms the Krell Dominion presents an extinction-level threat to humanity. They have conquered 40 systems in 2 years and are accelerating expansion. Projected timeline shows Krell forces reaching human space within 6 months. Activation is authorized. Jiwan stepped forward. You said 12 ships. Where are the other 11? Dispersed to hidden locations throughout this sector. I am now recalling all vessels and initiating crew revival procedures. Sentinel paused. First crew awakening will begin in 30 minutes. The Admiral will wish to speak with you. Admiral? Mirai asked. Who is the Admiral? Admiral Daehyun, commander of the Shadow Fleet. Status: cryosleep for 151 years. Revival process beginning now. Deep in the facility, systems activated that had not run in over a century. Cryogenic chambers began warming. Automated medical systems prepared for revival procedures. And in the largest chamber, ice formed patterns on glass as a man who had been sleeping for longer than most people lived began to wake. Mirai looked at her team. They had come searching for answers and found something far bigger. Humanity had a secret weapon, a fleet of warships crewed by soldiers from another era. Now those soldiers were waking up, and the galaxy was about to learn that humanity had been preparing for war since the very beginning. Sentinel's voice interrupted her thoughts. Captain Mirai, the Admiral is awake. He is requesting your immediate presence in Medical Bay 1. It was time to meet a ghost from humanity's hidden past. Medical Bay 1 was a sterile chamber filled with advanced equipment that looked both old and impossibly sophisticated. Admiral Daehyun sat on an examination table, bare-chested as medical scanners checked his vital signs. He looked to be in his mid-40s with gray touching his temples and scars marking his arms and chest. His eyes were the hardest part, cold and calculating, the eyes of someone who had seen too much death. A medical officer named Sun-hee stood nearby, monitoring the revival process. She was one of the first to wake after the Admiral, and she moved with efficient calm despite having been asleep for over a century. Daehyun looked up as Mirai entered. Captain Mirai, granddaughter of Jiho. His voice was rough from disuse but carried absolute authority. Your grandfather was a good man. He saved my life twice during the Vectar campaigns. I am sorry I could not attend his funeral, but I was already in cryosleep by then. You knew my grandfather? Mirai asked, still processing everything. I knew all the architects. They designed these ships around us, the soldiers who volunteered to sleep until we were needed. Daehyun stood, accepting a uniform that Sun-hee handed him. Sentinel has briefed me on the current situation. The Krell Dominion, the Valen extinction and the timeline. 6 months until they reach human space. Tell me, Captain, how strong is Earth's current military? Mirai hesitated. We have approximately 200 active warships spread across 30 colonies. Most are patrol vessels or light cruisers. We have never fought a major war since the unification. 200 ships against an empire that destroyed the Valens. Daehyun's expression did not change, but his jaw tightened. We will need to change those odds quickly. How many of my ships are operational? Sentinel reports 4 ships can be deployed immediately. The others need maintenance and full crew revivals. That will take weeks. Daehyun pulled on his uniform jacket. We do not have weeks. We need to test our capabilities and gather intelligence on Krell technology. Captain, I am assuming command of this operation under Shadow Protocol Authority. Do you accept this? Mirai felt the weight of his question. Part of her wanted to push back to maintain her own authority, but another part recognized the simple truth. This man had fought an interstellar war while she had only ever run research missions. I accept, Admiral. My ship and crew are at your disposal. Good. Daehyun turned to Sun-hee. How many crew have we revived so far? 147 across all ships. Another 300 in progress. Full revival will take 4 days minimum. Make it 3 days. I want the Eternal Vigil ready for combat immediately. Daehyun looked at Mirai. I need your signals expert. The one who found the Valen message. What was his name? Hyunwoo. He is extremely skilled with communications and patterns. Bring him to the tactical center, and your security chief Ji-won. If we are going hunting, I want people who can think creatively. Dae-hyun headed for the door, then paused. Captain, you should know something. The Shadow Fleet was not built for defense. We were built to win no matter the cost. The methods we use might disturb you. They certainly disturbed the people who authorized our creation. But they work. In the tactical center, Dae-hyun gathered his core officers and Mirai's team. He pulled up a holographic display showing the region of space they occupied. Sentinel detected Krell communications approximately 3 hours ago. A scout ship with 3 destroyer escorts is en route to investigate the signal that activated this facility. They will arrive in 16 hours. Taemin looked worried. Should we not hide? Go silent until they pass? No, Dae-hyun said flatly. We engage. For 3 reasons. First, we need to test our weapons against Krell technology. Second, we need their data and computers to understand their capabilities. Third, if even one ship reports our location, the Krell will send a battle fleet. We cannot allow any survivors. The room went quiet. Ji-won was the first to speak. You mean we destroy all 4 ships completely? No quarter, no prisoners. Exactly. Does this bother you? Ji-won met his eyes. No, Admiral. I have studied Krell tactics. They do not take prisoners either. This is their kind of war. Dae-hyun nodded with approval. Then we prepare. Hyunwoo, I need you to help our communications officer track their exact position. We will ambush them as they enter the system. Captain Mirai, your ship will serve as bait while the Eternal Vigil approaches from their blind side. They spent the next 12 hours preparing. The Eternal Vigil moved into position, powered down to minimal signatures. The Horizon's Edge positioned itself near the debris field, looking like just another research vessel investigating wreckage. Hyunwoo worked with the Shadow Fleet's communications officer, a sharp-eyed woman named Yuna, to monitor the approaching Krell ships. I can hear them talking, Hyunwoo said. They are excited. They think they found a human research ship alone in hostile space. Easy prey. Let them think that, Dae-hyun said. He stood in the Eternal Vigil's command center, surrounded by screens showing tactical data. Weapon status? An officer reported. Kinetic accelerators charged. Quantum torpedoes armed. Fighter bays ready for launch. The Krell ships entered the system exactly when predicted, 4 vessels moving in a standard search pattern. They immediately detected the Horizon's Edge and changed course to intercept. Mirai, still on her own ship's bridge, watched them approach. They are hailing us, Admiral. Ignore them. Let them get closer. Dae-hyun's voice came through the comms, calm and cold. The Krell ships closed to weapons range, their targeting systems locked on the Horizon's Edge. Then Dae-hyun gave the order. Fire everything. The Eternal Vigil dropped its stealth and opened fire. Kinetic rounds moving at relativistic speed slammed into the first Krell destroyer, before it could even react. The ship simply disintegrated, torn apart by impacts that released nuclear levels of energy. Quantum torpedoes phased through the shields of the second destroyer and exploded inside its hull. It broke in half, spilling atmosphere and debris. The Krell scout ship tried to run, but fighter craft launched from the Eternal Vigil were faster. They swarmed it, disabling engines and weapons in a coordinated strike that lasted seconds. The last destroyer managed to return fire, but its weapons splashed harmlessly against the Eternal Vigil's shields. Target their communications array first, Dae-hyun ordered. Then their engines. I want that ship intact. The destroyer tried to transmit a distress call, but Yuna jammed their signals. Precision fire from the Eternal Vigil crippled the ship without destroying it. Within 10 minutes of engagement start, 3 Krell ships were destroyed and 1 was disabled. Not a single shot had hit either human vessel. Ji-won led a boarding team to secure the disabled destroyer. They found the Krell crew alive but shocked, unable to comprehend how quickly they had been defeated. Ji-won's team stripped the ship's computers and captured the senior officers before planting explosive charges throughout the hull. Back on the Eternal Vigil, Dae-hyun watched the interrogation feeds. The Krell captain, a reptilian creature with scaled skin and multiple eyes, was defiant at first. But when Sun-hee showed him tactical data proving that the Shadow Fleet existed and had just destroyed his squadron in minutes, the Krell's defiance turned to fear. They thought we were weak, Dae-hyun said to Mirai, who had joined him on the Eternal Vigil. The entire Dominion believes humanity is a minor species, too fractured and peaceful to pose a real threat. That is about to change. The data recovered from the Krell ships was horrifying. The Dominion had detailed plans for invading human space, targeting 40 colony worlds simultaneously. They expected minimal resistance and planned to enslave survivors for labor. The invasion fleet was already assembling, 3 battle groups totaling over 200 ships. Their first target was New Haven, humanity's third largest colony with 40 million inhabitants. But there was one piece of good news buried in the data. The Krell did not know about the Shadow Fleet. They thought humanity only had the 200 ships Mirai had mentioned. This was humanity's one advantage, surprise. Daehyun made his decision. We cannot fight their entire fleet, not with only 4 operational ships. But we can defend New Haven. We can show the Krell and the rest of the galaxy that humanity is not easy prey. We have 3 weeks until they arrive. Sentinel, recall all Shadow Fleet vessels immediately. Begin full crew revivals. Captain Mirai, contact New Haven Command and tell them to begin civilian evacuations. What do we do with the Krell prisoners? Ji-won asked. Daehyun looked at the captured aliens on the monitors. We let them watch what happens next. Then we put them in an escape pod with evidence of our capabilities and send them back to Krell space. I want their leaders to know exactly what they are facing. The disabled Krell destroyer was destroyed by remote detonation, leaving no trace except debris. The human ships prepared to leave the void belt, but as they powered up their drives, Sentinel detected something alarming. Admiral, I am picking up multiple Krell signatures entering the system. Long-range sensors show 3 battle groups converging on our position. They detected the weapons fire. We have been found. Daehyun smiled, a cold expression without humor. Good, let them come. They want to see what humanity has been hiding in the shadows. Time to give them a demonstration. All ships battle stations. We fight our way out. The evacuation of the hidden facility happened in controlled chaos. Crews barely awakened from cryosleep stumbled through corridors, trying to remember training from over a century ago. Equipment was loaded onto ships with desperate speed. Sentinel coordinated everything, its artificial intelligence managing thousands of tasks simultaneously. Daehyun stood in the Eternal Vigil's command center, watching sensor data flow across displays. 3 Krell battle groups meant approximately 30 warships, maybe more. His fleet had 4 operational vessels and crews running on muscle memory and stim injections. The odds were terrible. Admiral, the facility is rigged to self-destruct, reported an engineer. When we leave, nothing will remain but rubble. Good. I will not give them the satisfaction of studying what we built. Daehyun turned to Mirai. Captain, your ship is the fastest. You will leave first and head directly to New Haven. Carry all the intelligence data we recovered. If we do not make it out, someone needs to warn the colonies. Mirai wanted to argue, but she understood the logic. What about the other Shadow Fleet ships? The ones still being recalled? They will rendezvous with us at New Haven if we survive that long. Daehyun pulled up a tactical map. The Krell are spreading out, trying to surround us. They are being cautious after we destroyed their scout group so easily. That caution will save us. We punch through their weakest point and run. The 4 Shadow Fleet ships, Eternal Vigil, Silent Thunder, Iron Covenant, and Crimson Dawn, formed up in a spearhead formation. The horizon's edge took point, its sensors probing for the best escape route. Behind them, the facility began to collapse as demolition charges triggered in sequence. The Krell fleet approached slowly, wary of traps. They had learned from the destroyed scout ships that humanity had weapons they did not expect. Their formation was defensive, shields overlapping, point defense systems active. They were ready for a fight. Daehyun waited until the last possible moment. All ships, emergency acceleration on my mark. Hyunwoo jammed their communications. I do not want them coordinating. 3, 2, 1 mark. The human ships erupted forward at accelerations that would have killed unprotected crew. But Shadow Fleet ships had internal gravity dampeners that pushed the limits of physics. They shot through the Krell formation like bullets, firing as they passed. The Krell were caught off guard by the sheer speed. Their targeting systems could not track fast enough. Human kinetic rounds and torpedoes slammed into Krell hulls at point-blank range. 2 Krell cruisers exploded. A third lost power and began to drift. The remaining ships tried to pursue, but the human vessels were already pulling away, their engines burning brighter than stars. Damage report, Daehyun called out. Minor hull damage to Silent Thunder, all other ships intact. The Krell are pursuing but falling behind. Their ships are not built for this kind of speed. They escaped the void belt with the Krell fleet far behind, unable to match their velocity. But the victory felt hollow. The facility was gone. 6 more Shadow Fleet ships had been destroyed or abandoned, still sealed in their docking cradles when the demolition charges went off. Humanity's secret weapon was now half gone before the real battle even started. The journey to New Haven took 5 days at maximum speed. During that time, Daehyun used every moment to drill his crews and integrate Mirai's people into the fleet operations. He also took time to explain the philosophy behind the Shadow Protocol. They gathered in the Eternal Vigil's briefing room, Daehyun standing before a holographic display showing Earth. Most species in the galaxy evolved on gentle worlds, he began. Moderate climates, few predators, stable ecosystems. They became intelligent through cooperation and social structures. Then they look at Earth and they do not understand what they see. The hologram shifted, showing Earth's history, predators hunting prey, ice ages and volcanic eruptions, mass extinctions and desperate survivals. Earth is what we call a death world. High gravity, violent weather, aggressive biology. Humans evolved not just to survive but to thrive in chaos. We are endurance hunters. We can track prey for days until it collapses from exhaustion. We heal from injuries that would kill most species. We can adapt to almost any environment. And most importantly, we never stop fighting even when logic says we should give up. Daehyun changed the display to show human history, wars and conflicts spanning thousands of years. Every human alive today is descended from survivors. Our ancestors faced ice ages, plagues, famines, and predators that wanted to eat them. They survived through stubbornness and creativity. That is our advantage. Aliens have better technology, bigger fleets, older civilizations. But they do not have our psychology. They do not understand that humans do not know when to quit. A young officer named Bowman, recently awakened from cryosleep, raised his hand. "Admiral, is that enough?" "Can psychology beat superior numbers?" "No," Daehyun said bluntly. "Psychology alone cannot win, but it gives us an edge. The Krell expect us to fight logically, to retreat when outnumbered, to surrender when the odds become impossible. We will not do what they expect. We will do what no sane military commander would do. We will use the environment as a weapon. We will take risks that seem suicidal. We will make them pay for every meter of space they take. And eventually they will realize that conquering humanity costs more than it is worth." The briefing continued for hours. Daehyun shared tactics from the Vector War. Battles won through unorthodox thinking and willingness to sacrifice. Some of the methods made even Ji-won uncomfortable, and she had special forces training. They arrived at New Haven to find the system in chaos. Civilian ships were evacuating in a steady stream, but millions remained on the planet's surface, unable to get transport off-world in time. The colony's defense fleet, consisting of 8 patrol ships and 2 outdated cruisers, looked pitifully small against the threat they faced. Mirai immediately contacted Governor Yuri, the colony's administrator. The woman appeared on screen looking exhausted and terrified. "Captain Mirai, thank God you are here. But 4 ships, even advanced ones, cannot stop a Krell invasion fleet." "No," Daehyun said, stepping into view. "But we can make them bleed." "Governor, we need complete cooperation from your defense forces and access to your automated orbital platforms. We are going to turn this entire system into a killing field." Over the next 2 weeks, the Shadow Fleet worked alongside New Haven's defenders to prepare. They deployed thousands of automated weapons platforms throughout the asteroid belt. They seeded space with kinetic mines, simple chunks of metal with thruster packs that would accelerate to relativistic speeds when activated. They built a sensor network that turned the entire system into one massive tactical display. Hyunwoo coordinated the network, working with Yuna to create something unprecedented. Every asteroid, every satellite, every piece of debris is now a sensor node. We will see the Krell coming from millions of kilometers away. We will know their formation, their speed, their weak points before they even enter weapons range. 2 more Shadow Fleet ships arrived, having completed emergency repairs. The Vengeful Dawn and Steel Resolve brought the fleet strength to 6 capital ships. Crews that had been sleeping for over a century worked alongside colonists barely old enough to remember peace. The generation gap was bizarre, but everyone focused on the same goal: survival. Bauman, the tactical officer, approached Daehyun with a plan that seemed insane. "Admiral, what if we do not try to hold a defensive line? What if we let them enter the system and then attack from all sides simultaneously? Use the asteroids for cover, hit and run. Make them chase us through a maze of explosives. Dae-hyun studied the proposal. It violated every rule of conventional space warfare. It relied on perfect timing and coordination. One mistake would doom them all. It is reckless and dangerous, he said finally. We will do it. Start training the crews immediately. Ji-won organized commando raids on Krell supply lines, taking small teams in stealth ships to harass the enemy before they even reached New Haven. They destroyed fuel depots and disabled scout ships, buying precious days for the evacuation. Finally, 3 days before the Krell fleet was expected to arrive, Dae-hyun gathered everyone for a final briefing. The room was packed with Shadow Fleet crew, colony defense personnel, and volunteers from New Haven who refused to evacuate. In 72 hours, the Krell Dominion will arrive expecting easy victory, Dae-hyun said, his voice carrying to every corner of the room. They think humans are weak. They think we will run or surrender. They are wrong. We are going to show them what happens when you threaten a death world species. We are going to make them remember this battle for generations, and when it is over, every empire in the galaxy will think twice before they look at humanity as prey. He paused, looking at faces young and old, frightened and determined. I will not lie to you. Many of us will die. The odds are against us, but that has always been true for humans. We evolved under impossible odds. We thrive despite impossible odds. And today we fight under impossible odds, because that is what we do. The room erupted in cheers, but Mirai noticed that Dae-hyun did not smile. He looked tired, carrying the weight of decisions that would determine whether humanity survived or fell. She approached him after the briefing ended. Admiral, do you really think we can win? The Battle of New Haven began with silence. The Krell fleet advanced in perfect formation, their ships moving like a school of predatory fish. 47 vessels against 6. By every tactical calculation, the battle should have been over in minutes, but the humans did not attack. They simply watched and waited. The Krell admiral grew impatient. Why do they not fire? Are they hoping we will show mercy? His tactical officer studied the sensors. Admiral, something is wrong. I'm detecting unusual signatures throughout the asteroid field. Thousands of them. Weapons platforms, the admiral guessed. A desperate defensive measure. Launch fighters to clear them out. 300 Krell fighters launched from their carrier ships swarming toward the asteroids. That was when Dae-hyun sprang his trap. Now, he said quietly, the kinetic mines activated. Chunks of metal, each weighing several tons, suddenly accelerated to enormous speeds. They slammed into the fighter formation like invisible hammers. Explosions blossomed across space as fighters simply disintegrated from the impacts. Within 30 seconds, 200 Krell fighters were destroyed. Before the Krell could react, the Shadow Fleet attacked. But they did not come from where the Krell expected. The 6 human ships had been hiding deeper in the asteroid field, using the rocks themselves to mask their signatures. They emerged from 3 different directions simultaneously, weapons blazing. The Eternal Vigil targeted the nearest Krell dreadnought with a weapon the Krell had never seen before. Tungsten rods, each one 10 meters long and moving at a significant fraction of light speed, slammed into the dreadnought's hull. The kinetic energy released was equivalent to nuclear weapons. The dreadnought's shields overloaded instantly. Its armor crumpled. Secondary explosions tore through its interior. Within minutes, a ship that had conquered dozens of worlds was nothing but expanding debris. One dreadnought down, reported Yuna from her station. Enemy fleet is breaking formation. The Krell were disciplined soldiers, but they had never faced tactics like this. Human ships did not stay still to exchange fire. They moved constantly, using asteroids for cover, appearing from unexpected angles, firing and then disappearing before the Krell could target them effectively. It was like fighting ghosts. Bowman's unconventional strategy was working perfectly. The Krell fleet tried to chase the human ships into the asteroid field, but that was exactly what Dae-hyun wanted. More kinetic mines activated, targeting the pursuing ships. Automated weapons platforms opened fire from hidden positions. The asteroids themselves became weapons as human ships lured Krell vessels into collisions with the massive rocks. But the Krell had numbers, and they were learning quickly. They began saturating entire sectors of space with weapons fire, not trying to aim precisely but simply destroying everything in certain zones. 3 automated platforms were destroyed. A mine network was cleared by concentrated bombardment. The second Krell dreadnought changed its approach. Instead of chasing the humans, it targeted New Haven itself, preparing to bombard the planet's surface. Millions of colonists still remained below, unable to evacuate in time. Mirai saw what was happening. "Admiral, the dreadnought is targeting the planet." "I see it," Daehyun said coldly. He ran calculations in his head, weighing options and costs. "Captain Mirai, take the Horizon's Edge and lead a boarding action on that dreadnought. Disable its main weapons from inside." "A boarding action? On a ship that size?" Taemin looked shocked. "Admiral, that is suicide." "No," Daehyun corrected. "It is necessary. The Krell do not expect us to board their ships. Their internal security is designed for external threats. Captain Mirai, you have 20 minutes before they finish charging their main guns. Go." Mirai did not hesitate. She grabbed Ji-won and a team of 30 volunteers, a mix of her crew and Shadow Fleet commandos. They loaded into fast assault shuttles and launched toward the dreadnought, using debris clouds to mask their approach. The Krell were so focused on the larger battle that they did not notice the small shuttles until too late. Ji-won's teams cut through the dreadnought's hull using plasma torches, forcing entry into the ship's lower decks. Immediately they were met by Krell security forces. The battle inside was brutal and close quarters. Krell soldiers were larger and stronger than humans, but the human commandos fought with a ferocity that shocked their enemies. Ji-won led her team through corridors filled with smoke and flashing lights, heading toward the dreadnought's main weapon control center. They encountered the Krell captain in a heavily defended command room. He was a massive creature nearly 3 meters tall, covered in battle scars. When he saw the humans, his multiple eyes widened in surprise. "You dare board my ship?" Ji-won raised her weapon. "We dare a lot of things." The firefight lasted 3 minutes. When it was over, half of Ji-won's team was wounded or dead, but the Krell captain and his guards lay on the deck. Mirai reached the weapons control console and began working to disable the main guns. She had 15 minutes of her deadline left. Outside, the battle raged. The Shadow Fleet ships were taking damage now. Silent Thunder lost its port engines and was forced to withdraw. Iron Covenant's shields failed and its hull showed multiple breaches. But they kept fighting, kept moving, kept making the Krell pay for every meter of space. The third Krell dreadnought decided to end this. It charged directly toward the Eternal Vigil, intending to use its massive size advantage to ram the human flagship. Daehyun saw it coming and made his decision. "All crew, this is the Admiral. Prepare for collision. Redirect all power to forward shields." He turned to his bridge crew. "It has been an honor serving with you." The dreadnought and the Eternal Vigil rushed toward each other. At the last moment, Daehyun gave one more order. "Detonate the internal reactor containment." Full overload. His crew stared at him in shock. "Admiral, that will destroy our ship." "Yes, and the dreadnought too." "Do it." But before the reactor could overload, Taemin's voice came through on an emergency channel. "Admiral, this is Taemin on the Horizon's Edge. I have a lock on your crew positions. Initiating emergency transport." The Eternal Vigil's bridge crew dematerialized in shimmers of light as the ship's experimental transport system beamed them out. Seconds later, the Eternal Vigil and the Krell dreadnought collided. The human ship's reactor went critical in the impact. The explosion was so bright it could be seen from New Haven's surface. When the light faded, both ships were gone. The third dreadnought was destroyed. But so was the Eternal Vigil, the flagship of the Shadow Fleet. Daehyun rematerialized on the Horizon's Edge, disoriented but alive. Taemin stood nearby, looking relieved and terrified at the same time. "I took a gamble, Admiral. I hope you are not angry." Daehyun almost smiled. "Remind me to recommend you for a medal if we survive the next hour." The Krell fleet was in chaos. They had lost all 3 dreadnoughts and 18 other ships. The humans had lost 1 capital ship and dozens of smaller vessels, but they were still fighting. For the first time in the battle, the Krell admiral felt something he rarely experienced: doubt. Then something unexpected happened. New sensor signatures appeared at the edge of the system. Ships, dozens of them, but not Krell vessels. Hyun-woo identified them immediately. "Admiral, these signatures match Valen designs." "But the Valens are extinct." "Not all of us," a new voice came through on open channels. The speaker used a translator, but the emotion was clear. "I am Captain Yael of the Valen Remnant. We have been hiding, surviving, waiting for a chance to strike back at those who destroyed our worlds. Today we heard a human voice broadcast a message of defiance. We heard someone willing to fight impossible odds to protect their people. We decided we would hide no longer. The Valon ships, 20 vessels that had survived in secret for over a century, joined the battle. They were old and battered, but they fought with desperate courage. More ships arrived, species that had been conquered or threatened by the Krell, inspired by the human resistance. The tide of battle shifted. The Krell fleet, designed to face desperate defensive actions, found itself surrounded and outnumbered. Their formation broke. Ships began to retreat independently. The admiral tried to rally them, but human weapons disabled his flagship's communications. Daehyun seized the moment. All ships full assault. Do not let them regroup. The combined fleet of humans and former Krell victims pursued the retreating Empire ships. The battle became a rout. Krell vessels that had terrorized entire systems fled in panic, some surrendering, others self-destructing rather than face capture. When the fighting finally stopped, 23 Krell ships had been destroyed, and 17 had surrendered. The rest escaped, but they carried with them news that would shake the Dominion. Humanity was not easy prey, and the oppressed peoples of the galaxy could fight back. New Haven was saved. The cost had been terrible. 4 Shadow Fleet ships destroyed or too damaged to repair. Thousands of casualties among human defenders and their allies. But they had won. Against impossible odds, they had won. In the aftermath, Daehyun stood on what remained of the Silent Thunder's observation deck, looking out at the debris field that marked the battle. Mirai joined him, bandaged and exhausted but alive.